Welcome to a very special character profile, and with Star Wars The Force Awakens having just opened, it feels fitting to talk about the central hero of the franchise. Darth Vader is certainly amazing, and who doesn't like Han Solo, Princess Leia, Lando Calrissian, Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the droids C-3PO and R2-D2. However, in the original trilogy, a lot of the focus is on Luke Skywalker. While he may be the classic hero archetype, I think he's a well-rounded protagonist whose growth during those films is developed in a strong way. Like a lot of elements in the Star Wars mythology, George Lucas went through multiple drafts and versions of the character before landing on the one we're now familiar with. Originally, Luke was going to be a general and Princess Leia's bodyguard. In a later draft, Luke was changed into a young Jedi, although Uncle Owen was his trainer, and Leia was written to be his sister, even in this early script. At one point, Lucas considered making Luke a girl to match the fairy tales he was taking inspiration from. Finally, before filming began, Luke Skywalker started to become his final form. Played by Mark Hamill in the finished film, he is the classic hero who wants to get off his desert planet and join the rebellion. This is emphasized not just in a scene with his aunt and uncle, but also the deleted scene where he's hanging out with his friends. It's quite surreal watching this for the first time, and it calls to mind George Lucas's previous film, American Graffiti. While I have no qualms with it being cut, I think it's a nice little moment that goes into Luke's life outside of the moisture farm, and why he's so intent on hanging out with his friends rather than cleaning a couple of droids.
Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
It also explains why he says that line. And I know Luke has been criticized as being whiny in A New Hope, but I think it's important in showing the growing maturity of the character. At first, he has very basic aspirations, but as the series goes on, he becomes more independent and certain of himself. When people bring up their favorite scene in Star Wars, a lot of people say the attack on the Death Star or the Millennium Falcon jumping into light speed. But for me, it's this moment, when he's looking out into the sunset. You can tell just from his face, his want to explore the galaxy and get off Tatooine, and John Williams' music adds so much to it. There's no dialogue, but this shot says so much. Even though it's debatable how much Luke's had planned at this point, one can see in the scenes between Luke and Obi-Wan how much the old Jedi Master wants so much for him not to end up like his father, and that makes these scenes almost emotional. Then there's the later scene where Luke destroys the Death Star, which has not lost any of its power since 1977. For The Empire Strikes Back, we see a growing Luke, but also one still growing accustomed to his Jedi powers. The scenes between Luke and Yoda on Dagobah really highlight how he still has plenty to learn. There's an impatience there, not unlike his father, and Yoda's frustrations are easy to understand. Of course, Empire also had that famous scene where, spoiler alert, Darth Vader is revealed to be Luke's father, and it really changes everyone's point of view of the series up until then. At first, one starts to think Vader is lying, which George Lucas definitely knew would be on some audience's minds after seeing the movie. Even Luke himself is clearly in doubt, which works to the advantage of the scene's effectiveness. When Return of the Jedi starts, we see a fully trained Jedi Knight within Luke, yet one still coming to grips about learning of his parentage. Yet he also finds out Leia is his sister in this chapter, and on a recent viewing I start to notice this major revelation is barely explored. They share one touching scene together talking about them being siblings, and then he goes off to confront Vader. The next time they see each other is at Celebration at the end. I really like Return of the Jedi, but it does feel like the filmmakers tried to cram a lot into the story, since George Lucas was not really sure if he would make more of these in the future. A lot of the best scenes in Jedi are when Luke confronts Vader, and it's a genuinely tense scene. We know Anakin was seduced by the dark side, so the possibility exists for Luke to succumb to it too. What instead happened was one of the most emotional endings in cinematic history, when Vader sacrifices himself to save his son, and then comes back to him as a Force ghost. What's he doing there? Right. The copy I own is a 2004 special edition. Can we put the original version up there? Thank you. I don't even hate the special editions, but I've never been wild about that change. So that's the abridged version of Luke Skywalker's story, and for the longest time, that was where it ended. Until now. But I will not reveal what Luke does in The Force Awakens. All I'm going to say is that he's definitely in it, and it's awesome. If you haven't seen the new Star Wars film yet, it's worth it. And the series is definitely in good hands at Disney. I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you.